Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tim Westcott. I'm a Senior Principal Analyst of Digital Content and Channels at OMDIA, and I'm very happy to be with you today to present some of our research on the theme of trends in global OTT. So OMDIA is a UK-based company specializing in technology, media and telecommunications, and in connecting the dots across the entire tech and media ecosystem. So first of all, there were 5,671 video streaming services available worldwide at the end of last year by our count. This is a mixture of everything from video sharing services like YouTube through to SVOD services like Amazon and Netflix, transactional services including Apple iTunes and other types of websites, some of them free, some of them advertising supported. So we've seen a kind of plateauing out in the number of services over the last few years. The peak year was 2019. New services are launching all the time, and in some instances, new streaming brands replace multiple other brands. Some services have been shuttered or closed down because they haven't managed to turn a profit. So we're seeing kind of changes all the time in the number of services available worldwide. Worldwide, about half of services are subscription funded or work on a subscription model. And as we'll see in Central and Southern Asia, which includes India and also the Central Asian republics, AVOD is slightly more prominent, but basically that region is very much in line with the global picture. So 50% subscription funded and about 25% advertising supported VOD. So again, looking at global, you can see that there are some fluctuations in the numbers every quarter, but overall at the end of last year, there was a slight increase in the number of video services compared to the end of 2020. And as I mentioned, just over half of services worldwide are subscription funded, 2,222 to be exact. And important point to note that in the case of a service like Netflix, we count every local version of Netflix. So that's not just Netflix as one service, that's every available version, local version of Netflix. So SVOD was the biggest business model, followed by AVOD with just over 2,000, transactional video on demand, 1,362. And then we looked at dedicated sports services as a separate category. There were just over 1,000 of those, 600 virtual pay TV operators, and then just under 500, or to be exact, 463 free video on demand services. And those are either promotional channels, which don't really have any revenue stream, or public broadcaster funded services. So looking at Central and Southern Asia, we estimated there were a total of 127 video services available in the region at the end of 2021, and AVOD was the leading revenue model. So 51 of those 127 services are AVOD, and about 45 services were SVOD. And again, we count each local version, each local national version separately. If we look at revenue, advertising, despite all of the publicity about subscription and SVOD, advertising is a larger revenue stream and has been since 2010, and is actually going to outgrow subscription as a source of funding for online video services over the next 5 years. You can see quite a steep increase in advertising revenue for video services and an increase for subscription, but not on the same dramatic level. Online video, of course, is dominated by YouTube and Facebook around the world, but lots of other services are now incorporating advertising funding. And we heard last night that Netflix is considering adding an advertising tier to its service. And that is something that's already been done by the likes of HBO Max and Peacock, Hulu, of course, in the US, and later this year, Disney Plus is also introducing advertising. So it's no surprise that Netflix is considering going the same way. Advertising, video advertising, we forecast is actually going to outstrip linear advertising this year in 2022. And that is just video online advertising. So we don't include search in that. So a very strong source of financing, which is continuing to grow. Looking again at SVOD, what we're looking at here is the number of subscriptions worldwide. They are continuing to grow. We've obviously seen very dramatic growth since 2015. Both Amazon and Netflix launched globally in 2012. And since then, a number of major competitors have entered the market. So Disney Plus and Apple TV Plus in 2019, followed by HBO Max and Peacock last year, and Paramount Plus starting rollout internationally in 2021. So we will continue to see growth in the market, and we are seeing, particularly with the advent of the new US studios, we're seeing some changes in the market. They used to sell their content and license their content to Netflix and Amazon, and now they're very much seeing them as head-on competitors and diverting their own content onto their own SVOD services around the world. So we continually ask consumers around the world. We do surveys in 8 different countries, including India. And these are some highlights from the last wave of research, which we did in November last year. So we asked people what type of video service they subscribe to. And you can see that in most countries now, SVOD has outstripped pay TV in terms of paid for content. That's not the case in every country. And also each country's pay TV market is very different. So in the US was a country with very high pay TV penetration compared to countries like the UK and Brazil, where pay TV is more of a sort of premium option. And we've really seen SVOD decimate the numbers of people subscribing to pay TV, as is often been stated. SVOD is a cheaper alternative to pay TV in the US, and new services like Netflix have come in and undercut existing pay TV, also offering on demand, the opportunity to binge watch, which consumers have really enthusiastically embraced. And that is the picture in many other countries as well. Pay TV hasn't declined quite as dramatically as it has in the US, but SVOD is bigger in most cases. India is slightly different, partly because the pricing differential is not the same. So SVOD is actually a premium service in India, whereas pay TV tends to be cheaper. So there are still more homes with pay TV than SVOD in India, and that's also the case in France, where a lot of people get their television now from a pay TV operator, an IPTV operator. So we also ask people what services they most often use. And as you saw on the previous slide, there's an increasing array of big SVOD services being launched. Clearly, not every household is going to subscribe to every one. And what our research shows is that if you ask people which online services they use the most, it's often free ad-funded services that they use most often. So YouTube in many countries is the #1 choice. So India is no exception. In Q4 2021, YouTube was the biggest service, followed by Facebook Watch and the free version of Disney Plus Hotstar. And you can see Amazon and Netflix kind of in the middle of those rankings there. So a lot for these SVOD services to compete with. Famously, Netflix says it's competing with sleep, as you know, in terms of taking up people's time. But online services are also competing with each other, of course. And another finding is here. So we also ask consumers what they rate most highly specifically in SVOD service here. Overwhelmingly, exclusive content, original content, content that isn't available somewhere else, often a particular TV series that maybe people have heard about and want to catch up on, is the reason that they subscribe to a service. Range of content is less important, but obviously having a broad catalog choice, a deep catalog, is also very important for online services. Advertisement free, That's a very big deal for some people, but not as important as original exclusive content. And you can see that other things like UHD content and even the ability to sort of take control of your viewing and watch things on demand is seen as important, but less important for subscribers to SVOD services. So just jumping on now, this also, this is a piece of research we haven't actually published yet. So this is a sort of world exclusive. Every year we look at the amount of original production by the leading SVOD platforms, including Amazon and Netflix. And this year we're looking at data for 2021, looking at original productions which were first transmitted in 2021. We can see that we noted a decrease for Amazon and Netflix in 2021. So they actually commissioned and aired fewer hours of original content last year, a total of 1,767 for Netflix. And that's the first year that we've seen a decline. There are various reasons for this. Important to note that our definition of original is quite strict. So Netflix particularly will often promote something as original, which we feel has actually aired on another broadcaster first and is not significantly funded by Netflix. So we would call that an acquisition. But I think one of the main reasons is to do with the production hiatus because of the COVID pandemic in 2020. So for many months of the year, production was stopped or delayed, and we're seeing that working through into the delivery pipeline. So both Netflix and Amazon actually transmitted lower amounts of original content in 2021. However, if you compare what Netflix in particular is doing with a typical US linear service, it's still a considerable amount of new content. And the other thing about these platforms is that they are available globally, and they also commission content globally. So Netflix in 2021 actually commissioned content from a total of 47 countries outside the US. So a considerable spread of sources of programming, and that is, there are many reasons for that. The main reason is that as both platforms roll out local versions, they need local content to bring people on board. However, they are also often very successfully exporting content from one country or in one language to another country. And many of Netflix's most successful hits now have been produced in countries other than the US and in languages other than English. So you can see that last year, or over the last 5 years, rather, Spain has been the main source of drama for Netflix. These tables are just talking about drama, but the overall commissioning picture is quite similar if you look at all genres. So Spain is one of Netflix's main sources of content outside the US, followed by India. And there are slightly different reasons for that. One reason is that Netflix wasn't able to get as much local catalog in India as it would have liked, so it was kind of obliged to originate. And also local audiences in India tend to prefer local content. They will watch content from other countries, but really the exclusive content they're looking for is local content. So a lower number of commissions for Amazon, but notably India is a very important market territory for Amazon. So a lot of its original drama commissions have been in India over the last few years. So if we look at the overall content mix of some of these streamers, I've talked a lot about original production, a very big deal for Netflix. But many of the new direct-to-consumer services have a broader range of content offerings than just original production. They're all increasing their original production, but if you look at particularly the services backed by US studios, then their new movies are going to be a very important part of their of their SVOD services. So Disney, Paramount, Universal, and Warner Brothers are all offering new movies on an exclusive window after theatrical release on their SVOD services. They also have very deep libraries of film and TV, If you look at Disney, Disney claimed 7,000 hours of content on its platform. So this is a library that Netflix in particular doesn't have, which is why one reason it's doing so much original production. And obviously now that Amazon has acquired MGM, Amazon has access to the MGM library and owns 50% of the Bond titles. Some of these services are also offering live streaming channels and also sport. Amazon in particular has made a very strong commitment to sport, and it's starting to show exclusive NFL games worldwide from later this year. Already offers a lot of local leagues in Europe, local football leagues in Europe and other sports. Apple has also entered the game, and most of the studio-backed services like HBO Max, Paramount, and Peacock have sport in the US and Latin America, if not in more competitive arenas like Europe and Asia so far. So another piece of research that we present, this is also backing up the point about how international the offering of the likes of Netflix and Amazon is. What we do is we have a partner called Plum Research, which estimates viewing of Netflix content in 37 different countries, including India. And what we're looking at here is the latest results from the fourth quarter of last year. So out of the top 10 most viewed titles in India, 4 of them were Indian originated. And that's quite common, but many countries you will only find 2 or 3 local titles in the top 10. So local content, as I mentioned, does very well in India and is a key kind of concern for the SVOD players in India. However, Squid Game, which has obviously been a sensation internationally for Netflix, was also #1 in India in Q4. Out of the 37 countries, I think there were only 3 where Squid Game wasn't #1 in Q4. So Netflix really has the ability to launch a big global success, which is watched by people around the world. Second chart there, looking at India, we can see that out of the top 100 titles in Q4, 58 were non-original, so they were acquired by Netflix, things like Friends, for example, and 42 were original. And non-original, so content that isn't owned, wasn't originated by Netflix, also got a larger share of unique viewers in Q4. So that was a very quick rattle through some of our research. The key takeaways, first of all, just over half of the video streaming services available worldwide were subscription funded at the end of 2021. So a big part, the most common business model. However, advertising is a much larger revenue stream, and it will continue to grow faster than subscription through our forecast period over the next 5 years to 2025. Most of the largest media companies have now established online services, and they're now competing with Netflix. They're now also in the process of rolling out globally in Latin America, Europe, and now this year, Asia Pacific. In many countries, SVOD has really thrived because it's a lower cost alternative to pay TV, not the case in every country. However, consumers often show a preference for AVOD sites over SVOD sites for their online viewing. Netflix has invested massively in online exclusive content, and we can see that that's paid off in subscriber numbers. That's what people are really looking for when they pay for an SVOD service. But competitors are following suit. However, many of these new global offerings, and I think this is probably going to be an increasing issue for Netflix, offer a wider range of services, including live channels and sports, and that goes for local services as well, which offer a wider range of content than just on-demand content. Despite signs of a slowdown, particularly in its latest results reported yesterday, Netflix continues to make the running as a global platform. It's well ahead of other competitors in terms of its subscriber base. And it has also really doubled down on offering a very international range of content. Thank you very much for listening. and have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.